Today on Naked and Afraid. Oh, wait. Well, that might not be far off. Hello out there to all the new Tarnished coming and joining the adventure in the lands between, sponsored by the holidays and that beautiful Game of the Year award. I'm Sulvern, and I'm here to give you a quick rundown on a few things that will hopefully help you find your feet. As someone who had never played a From Software game before, I hopped in back last February only knowing that I was in the challenge of my video game career thus far. I had a tough time adjusting and learning how things were done, but it is insanely rewarding once you get there. And now, I'm here to help you. The first thing you'll see upon starting a new game is picking your class. Just what do all these stats mean? Level and strength are self-explanatory. Vigor is your health, mind is your mana or your magic power bar. Endurance is your stamina bar. Dexterity reduces the amount of time it takes to cast spells, lessens fall damage, and makes it harder to be knocked off your mount. Intelligence determines your ability to use sorceries or spells. Faith is the ability to use incantations, and Arcane is how you increase your discovery stat, raise holy defense, vitality, and also boosts some spells or incantations. Each beginning class has different stats, starting weapons, and armor. Every class has a minimum of one melee weapon. If you want to use spells or incantations, you'll need to either pick the Prophet or Confessor class. The Wretch class does not start with any armor, so if this is your first playthrough, I highly recommend not picking that one. Don't be crushed under the weight of picking a class based on the stats. You can reallocate your points into other stats as you level up, and even start from the beginning numbers to choose a different playstyle later in the game, but you're always going to go back to these basic starting numbers. Using regular melee weapons or bows consumes stamina. Spells and incantations use both FP and stamina, so these are just things to be cautious of in making sure that you aren't just spamming things. Once you run out of FP, you can't cast any more magic, and if you run out of stamina, you can't sprint or attack until it builds back up. One big thing to factor in as you play is your weapons. If you examine them, you will find that some of them have different types of scaling. Some get more powerful with higher strength. Some require higher dexterity to even wield. Some may have two requirements, maybe intelligence and arcane. If you want to put more points into these areas, depending on the weapon you want to use, it can drastically help you do more damage. Maybe there's a build that you want to achieve, but the weapon you want to use doesn't fully match your stats. There are whetstones that you can find later in the game that you can use with a blacksmith to help change how you want the weapon to scale a little bit. You can't fully customize the scaling altogether, just tweak it around somewhat. Once you pick your class, you get to dive into the full character creation, which is very detailed. The only thing that will affect your game as far as choices is your keepsake. Each one can do something different, but my recommendation would be to pick a golden seed. You start with a limited number of flasks, items that you can consume for healing or FP recovery. The golden seed will boost the amount that you gain back, which can be a big help to you in the beginning. At one point after the beginning sequences, you will awaken in an underground area. You have the option to jump down a dark hole into the Cave of Knowledge. I highly suggest doing this, as it is your tutorial area that will give you a ton of helpful advice in the game mechanics. You learn about the Sights of Grace and what all they can do for you, how to attack one-handed, how to switch your weapon to be two-handed, how to guard, perform guard counters, dodge, jump, use stealth, gather items, lock onto opponents, use skills, perform critical hits, and breaking stances. Stances are pretty important in this game because it applies to both enemies and yourself. If enough damage is dealt, you will have your stance broken, which is like a stun period where you can't move properly or recover right away and leaves you open to big attacks. Breaking stances can be pivotal in dealing with bosses. Also, a helpful tip about critical hits. Make sure that your character is directly behind the enemy, and even better if you're touching them. There have been many times I thought I was close enough and just accidentally attacked them regularly instead of performing the critical hit. Weapon skills are a great factor to consider throughout the entire game. Some weapons come with skills attached to them, and some are empty, allowing you to insert whichever skill you want to them. There is a large number of these hidden in the lands between, so make sure to explore and discover them to continue changing up how you approach your gameplay. There are also stakes of America. When, not if, when you die in the lands between, you lose all your runes you've gathered. Runes are this game's currency that you gain from defeating enemies or finding them in odd locations like in skulls. However, if you've passed by a stake of America, it's like a checkpoint where when you die, you have the option of either returning to the last site of grace you visited or spawning at the last stake you passed by. In order to get the dropped runes back, you need to return to the exact spot you died and pick them back up. If you die a second time without picking them up, they're gone forever. Make sure to pay attention to using them to level yourself or your weapons up or buy things with them. The higher level you become, the more runes required to level up, the more careful you have to be. Take a look at the enemy before you engage. Do they look big and scary and like they could wipe you out just by looking at you? Or is it just a rat? Joke's on you. Stop, go back, use your runes anyways. Now you're here in the real open world map and you have no idea what to do now. There's a man right outside where you begin, and he will spout off a lot of things, including calling you
maidenless.
Don't take offense, you'll be called this the whole game. He will give you some hints about where to go first, but even then, everything can be pretty overwhelming right at the beginning. Once you activate a Sight of Grace, pay attention to the direction the stream of light goes to. This is a big hint about where to go next for the story. And don't worry, there are Sights of Grace everywhere. This beginning area is meant to teach you a lot of things. Can you carelessly explore? Nope. Is there fall damage? Oh, yes. Can you challenge every enemy you come across right away? Well, you can, but can you beat it? It's not impossible, but not probable for a new player. You have to pick and choose your battles, learn how to navigate around, how to sneak around harder enemies. But first, before you go running off into a different direction, let me make a recommendation for you. Follow along this way and hit this Sight of Grace. It will trigger a cutscene and you will gain your mount, Torrent. This will make exploration tons easier, but be careful. If you get knocked off of him, you're pretty much guaranteed to die. He can only take so much damage, and you can still take damage while on his back. You can swing your weapon in both your left and right hands depending on which side the enemy is on. For using magic, you need to either have your staff or sacred seal in the right hand, otherwise you can't cast. However, if you want to leave it in your left hand, if you use the button combo like you're dual wielding, it will change the weapon momentarily from the left to the right, so that you can cast without having to switch it every single time you get on. Oh, and don't even think that you're safe from fall damage. If you jump from too high while you're on Torrent, you are still most definitely going to die. If you open up your map, you'll notice that, well, there isn't one. You're going to have to find all the pieces of each area to fill in this massive world. Thankfully, there are hints, even on your bear map, on where to find them. If you open it up and look around, so long as it isn't covered by mist, you'll see this icon on there. When you get to that area, you'll see this pillar-looking structure with an item at the base. That is where your map piece is. There's an anvil near Merchant Calle that you can use to upgrade your weapon. There's an area that you can access later in the game to do it as well, but don't be shy to upgrade. There are plenty of resources for leveling up your weapons several times, especially early game. Don't feel like you need to hoard these items. As you progress, you're going to find other pieces of armor and new weapons to equip. You will need to pay close attention to how much things weigh. You have different weight loads that you can carry, and that will affect your roll, aka your most used method of dodging attacks. If you weigh too much, you aren't really going to roll at all, and you're going to get hit. You want to keep an eye out and try to keep your load to medium or light to ensure that you can move around well enough. The competitive aspect can be a little tricky to figure out. You require a few different items to be able to fully do it. You can do both cooperative and competitive multiplayer. The competitive side had a recent update where there are coliseums throughout the map that we can now access and fight other people online in controlled areas. However, for the sake of this video, we're only going to discuss how to get the co-op up and running for you to get help. A very important thing to note, you can both ask for help and offer your help. If you offer your help and get summoned to another player's world and defeat the boss fight will not be completed in your world. So if you need assistance in making sure that you clear it in your own world, you need to follow these steps. Firstly, you need to activate the summoning pools in the area. You then need to use a Furl Calling Finger Remedy, which can be found in any number of ways, but in the beginning, it's easiest to either purchase one from Merchant Calle for 1,000 runes, or craft one with 2 Erdleaf flowers. Using this item will allow you to see golden signs on the ground where other players are offering to help you. Touch the golden sign and summon them into your world. This comes with a lot of caveats. If you die, the people you summoned, up to 2, will be sent back to their home world. If they die, they will be sent back. They do not respawn into the fight. When you win, they will be sent back to their home world once again. The game also factors in levels. You can't have a friend that's over level 100 summon into your very first boss fight and have them carry you. The game will not allow it. I'm not 100% sure what the range is, but you do have to be close in level with other people to either summon them or be summoned. And if you want to go into someone else's world to help with their boss fight, you need to use the tarnished, furled finger to lay a sign on the ground and other people can see it in order to summon you. Something to consider. If you do participate in the PvP aspect of Elden Ring, you need to think about your weapons. There have been many patches done since the game's release that have made significant tweaks to how your weapons perform in PvP versus PvE. Just because you've discovered a build and a weapon that will absolutely steamroll the Tree Sentinel doesn't mean that you can hop into another player's world and defeat them just as easily. If you don't want to get invaded, you don't have to worry about turning off multiplayer. There is still some very useful benefits to leaving it on all the time. You'll notice right away these bloodstains on the ground. If you interact with one, you'll see how that person died in their world. Vaguely. You won't see the enemy or anything, but sometimes looking at these can give you clues about an upcoming fight. Similarly, you'll see these white messages that you can read on the ground that other players have left for you to read. Be warned, most are trolly, sometimes they're flat out funny, but some are actually pretty useful in finding items or warning you of ambushes or hard fights up ahead that don't look like they belong there. But that's a dog. Most definitely a dog. Don't ask questions. The last thing I can think of to tell you about is the story. If you are new to From Software, they don't do the most direct way of storytelling. You probably watch that opening cutscene and have no idea what's going on with all the names dropped, what the Elden Ring actually is, and what exactly happened to you, the Tarnished, before you arrived in the Lands Between. For that, I highly recommend you checking out VaatiVidya's channel here. They do incredible deep diving into the lore of the game, its characters, and locations that are on a whole other level. If there are things that don't make sense to you story-wise that you want to learn about, their channel is the place to go. I know that this was a lot of information to digest, but I tried to help keep it as condensed and simple as I could for you. There are plenty of other videos that we have done in the past on Elden Ring, such as rune farm guides and how to get OP early as a sorcerer that you can check out here. We're excited to see this influx of people interested in Elden Ring, and we are hoping that with some helpful videos, you may want to stick around. We plan on doing a second part to accompany this video, but we will go more in-depth in things like status ailments and how to properly craft builds while utilizing the official strategy guidebook. Thanks for sticking with me to the end, because as we all know, time is runes.